G'day guys and welcome back to the Red Vest podcast. This is a little sideshow we'll be doing every Monday night, just talking about the round that was and what we think of the round to come. Boys, how are you doing this week?
Yeah, good. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Sherman, how you going, mate?
Yeah, super. Thanks, mate. Great to be in your presence, fellas.
That's the way. How do we think the round of footy went? A lot of big talking points.
Yeah, it was a very exciting weekend, wasn't it?
It was
No, I
exciting.
reckon no one was too good with their tips. That's for sure. There's a lot of
No.
upsets, a lot of different wins.
What'd you score?
No.
Just quietly.
Oh, I think I got 4. What about you, Sherm?
4, yeah.
Yeah, not too great, but it's good to see the D's get a win, mate. So I'm up and about a bit more this week. So
Very good.
Come on.
They heard us on the podcast last week and they responded.
Bit extra motivation.
That's it. As I said, boys, a few big talking points this week. But first of all, probably the biggest of them all in terms of footy news, the suspensions that and reports that occurred over the weekend. There was a few big ones, obviously, in Ben Long and Dylan Shield, and I think there was a couple of others that were getting looked at. But
yeah, Brad Ebert had a pretty big hit, yeah.
Yeah, Brad Ebert.
Rowan, yep.
First of all, did you blokes watch the hit on both Ben Long and Dylan Shield's hit, and what did you think of it? I'll start with you, Macca. Go on.
Yeah, well, I'll start with Ben Long's. That was probably the bigger one of the weekend, and it was a pretty big hit when I saw it, like on a big ruckman like Sean Darcy being able to just hit him and send him backwards like so hard, and obviously knock him out and finish him for the day. It's big effort. I reckon, like, we obviously don't know what he's got yet because he's just got sent to the tribunal, but they're all talking about 3 to 4 weeks. So, which I reckon 3 weeks will probably be about right. We saw Dylan Shield got 2. So I reckon, yeah, you saw him go past the ball, and any time these days in footy, they've made it clear that every time you go past the footy and hit someone and it ends badly, you're just going to have to cop the weeks that you get, and they're going to be quite harsh with the weeks they give out. So
I reckon
he knows what he's done wrong and he's going to face it, really.
I think it's straight to tribunal, isn't it? This one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Straight to tribunal. Yeah.
Oh, I think they'll give him. I think they'll offer him like 4, and like they'll pretty much propose 4, and I reckon they'll bring it down to 3, due to the fact that he can argue that he turned his head late, and then like I don't know. I guess he was like a small player protecting himself against a big player. You know, like all the things they can say, but. Going off other reports this year in tribunal hearings, like Hayden Crozier didn't even get off something pretty light. So if Ben Long gets 4 weeks, that's pretty damaging for St Kilda. It's in his own wrongdoing. It was pretty bad hit, but I'm sure there was no malice in it, and you know, hopefully he doesn't get 4 weeks for the Saints' sake. But yeah, pretty big one there. And then moving on to Dylan Shield as well. Shermo, what did you think of this one, mate? And how do you think this will play out for him?
Yeah, I'm along the lines of, if you are to bump someone high and it's deemed to be past the footy, you've just got to do the time now. I think you can't be expected. I think the days are gone where you can get away with that stuff anymore. AFL's made a stance that they want to cut that out of the game. They want to get give the players weeks on the sidelines, if to say, and I think that's what the game needs. I think to move the game forward, we need guys missing games of footy if those actions continue. And I think, we're seeing that, the days are gone of Brownlow medal favourites, for example, like a Dylan Shield being up there as a Brownlow medal contender. Now, there's arguments that in the past, Dangerfield and these sort of guys would have get off if they do those actions, where now I think the best thing is that no matter who does it, you've got to create a line in the sand and make the setting and an example that if you are to run that risk, there's going to be a penalty that comes with it.
I'm going to go on a bit of a rant here. This is where this AFL pisses me off, right? So you've got Ben Long, who is probably been put on report a couple of times in his career. Pretty aggravated player. He's controlled it a lot this year, but on the weekend got the better of him, obviously. Pretty tough game, hot conditions. He has that late hit, which is obviously questionable and obviously suspendable. But then you've got someone like Burgoyne who does the twisting and throwing action on Dangerfield in round 1 or round 2, and he gets off because he's the good bloke of the AFL. Like, how does that? Yeah. How are the AFL trying to stamp something out when they're looking after one bloke for a dirty tackle, and then Ben Long's going to get 4 or 5 weeks for a bump?
Yeah, that's what we're hearing with Toby Green at the moment as well. They're all saying how harshly he gets treated. It's true. I was just saying last night, in the Dogs Carlton game where Mitch Wallace did the prime example of the studs up. He had his boot out. I think it was Petrevski-Seton kicked him. Mm-hmm. They've even made a free kick of that purely from Toby Green. He does anything like that, they pay it. And that one, they had the second chance and they didn't pay it. So,
exactly right,
there's some players that are a bit harsh done by, and it's just how it is in the AFL.
Yeah. You have a look at the Ben Long incident too. Now, the guy has every right to protect himself, to lower his centre of gravity and protect himself. Mm-hmm. Now, he come into there, right? He could have led with his head. Now, Sean Darcy fumbled the football, led with his head.
Exactly
right. Led with his head. So, in that case, the umpires and the people that take this into consideration, like the tribunal, need to take that into consideration before they give their due penalty, because Ben Long did the right thing. He come in, he turned his hip, he turned sideways to protect himself. Every player has the right to do that, no matter who you are. But this is the sticking point. The sticking point is, if you get a guy high in today's game, you're going to do the time. Simple as that. So that's the only issue that Ben Long has. Yeah. Other than that, that action itself is perfect.
Mm-hmm. They're not looking at like malice intention on the level they used to these days. Half the time they're looking at the outcome of the player they hit, whether they're knocked out or not. Makes a huge
had Sean Darcy not have gone down and out for the game, do you think Ben Long would probably have his sentence reduced 2 weeks?
I wouldn't say 2. I'd say maybe only 1 week, I reckon.
Yeah,
it was still a pretty severe hit.
I think purely on the fact...
And he did go past the footy. They're trying to stamp that out, but I reckon it would have gone down a week.
From what
I reckon 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, I reckon 2 or 3 weeks. But from what you've said, mate, if it's straight to tribunal and they propose 4 weeks, I think he can say Darcy led with his head, fumbled, protecting himself against bigger player.
Correct.
And then you can throw in heaps of shit, like he was unsettled due to being moved to the hub in so-and-so days, and he's not, he hasn't adjusted well. Like, there's so many things that can go into it. But
the thing with like tribunals and stuff at the moment is they're looking at that diagram they have where it's like severe contact, like
exactly
all those ones.
And in between.
I know, and like it doesn't look at those things like the intentions and like the thoughts too much. It just goes, how hard did he hit him? What were the outcomes and stuff? Okay, here's your 3, here's your 4 weeks, and then they work from there. Whereas they don't really take that into account in that model. So hopefully the tribunal doesn't stick to that too much when they're looking at it, and they don't just say, "Oh, you knocked him out. Here's 4 weeks. Go and sit at home 4 weeks and rest up." Like,
exactly.
I think the other thing too is, now you've been a Saints fan yourself, Gilsey, and you're looking at the game from a different angle in terms of as a supporter. You don't want to see your best players out for a long period of time. So, this is where yes, the action was high, but we don't want to see, Ben Long, who's important, secured a structure off the half-back line, be out for a clump of time, because that, at the end of the day, St Kilda are in the top 8 at the moment. It's probably been a while since they've been there, and they want to continue that momentum. So, to take a player out for 4 or 5 weeks is only going to halt that momentum.
Exactly right. And we'll move on from that topic, boys, now. We've spoken enough about the suspensions. It's been a bit of a low point for the week in what was a fantastic round of footy, but the second thing I want to talk about is this the season that has absolutely everything with a question mark. I think it is unbelievable. We got results changing week in, week out. St Kilda kicked 7 goals in the first quarter and kicked 2 for the rest of the game. Like, Fremantle absolutely on fire after getting thumped in the first quarter. You saw a couple other big results. The D's responded really well, had a great game. Isaac Rankin on debut, absolute superstar. Bailey Smith, absolute superstar, on fire last night. The Blues, who would have thought they'd play a 4-quarter game of football? But what do we reckon, boys? There's a lot of aspiring youngsters, and there's some absolutely cracking games on the tally at the moment. What are your thoughts on the round that just went by, Shermo?
Exciting, very exciting. I think we haven't seen a brand like this for a long time, and I think what excites me, being a coach as well, is that young kids, you know what you're going to get from them. These days they soak it up. They give you 120% every time they go out there. And you look at guys like Isaac Rankin, he's been chopping at the bit, ready to go for a long period of time, got his body right to a point where he can actually get out in the park and show what he can do. Now, I watched a little highlights package before that game yesterday of Isaac, all the way through his state footy, playing for South Australia. And he was doing what he did last night all through those carnivals. We've just seen it live on telly for the first time, and everyone's gone, wow. But if you actually have a look at what Isaac did, you know, he's been a talent for quite a few years. And that's what excites me, to actually see guys then take that to the next level. Playing in a team like Gold Coast, who's got that belief at the moment, where a guy can just come in and be himself and just, you know, play with that human flair, which is just amazing. And I think we've seen at the moment, Carlton's kicking 16 goals against the Bulldogs, who were a grand finalist 3 or 4 years ago. That, you know, Carlton are playing some great footy at the moment. And to me, the competition is so even. And I mean, we've seen the D's on the weekend. You know, my old mobs bounced back and made me with a smile on my face this week. So, you know, I think it just proves at the moment, you drop your guard for half a second, a team's going to beat you and beat you well.
Yeah, and on that Isaac Rankin topic, fantastic debut game, 12 touches, 70% efficiency. I think he kicked 3 goals, was it? Could have kicked 5 or 6.
Yeah, 3 goals, 2 or something, yeah.
You talk about that early highlights package from his state days. There's that photo I saw yesterday, I think it was, where he's the goals are on his right side and he's coming into the pack. And before he even picks up the ball, his eyes are like pointing, like he's looking toward goal, ready to come out the pack and snap. Like it's just the way just the way he evades out of packs. It was fantastic to watch, and I can't wait to see more from him. What do you reckon, Macca? I know you're a big fan of the Gold Coast boys. What do you reckon of Isaac Rankin on the weekend, mate?
Oh, yeah, well, he's just stepped up, and like that, I heard people say Matt Rail's out. They need someone to step up. He's come in his first game and done the job for him. Obviously, they didn't get the win, which looking at all the news stories about him, you would have thought they won, but the D's got up still. So
yeah, unfortunately, the D's.
Yeah, Gold Coast got a good squad this year. And like we were saying earlier, boys, before we started, like pretty much all but probably 2 teams in like Adelaide and Sydney maybe, or even Freo on the day, like every team can rock up on a day and beat a good team this year. You can't count many teams out this season. Like Shem was saying, it's so even. Like pretty much 16 of the 18 teams, maybe 15, you should be worried about going into the game. It's not an easy beat anymore. Like we said, Gold Coast are a quality team this year. We saw like North Melbourne can come out in a day and beat anyone, even though they're down the bottom of the ladder. Like you don't know what you're going to get with them. Essendon are proven to be the goods this year so far. We'll see how long that lasts. So just lots of teams are showing that they're in it to win it this year, and it's very exciting stuff. But we're saying with the injuries coming into the season, like it's the part of the season we knew was going to happen off the short week's notice because of Corona and everything, but we were willing to accept it. It's allowing more young kids to get a game. We see so many debutants on the weekend come through for the Dogs, for Collingwood, for Hawthorn, for everyone. Like they're giving the young kids a chance and they're taking the opportunities with both hands, which I'm loving to see. It's exciting stuff. It really is.
100%. And up past that now, we move to Port Adelaide, who are sitting top and only lost the 1 game to Brisbane, I think it was. And a story for you boys. Yesterday they played the Giants up at Metricon. Great game from both sides, but Port Adelaide ran away with it in the end. Young man by the name of Kane Farrell got the call up at 4:30 in the morning in Adelaide and got told to pack his bags and fly up to the coast and get stuck into it and have a run on the park. And gee, boys, didn't he have a game? I think he racked up a few disposals there at a good efficiency. 6 tackles, I think you said, Macca, and he kicked 1 goal 3 or 1 goal 2, and he kicked one on the run from about 65. And I think it was Dwayne Russell that said Mackenzie from 60, and I said, oh, and he goes, oh, that's not Mackenzie, that's Kane Farrell. So to get the call up that early, boys, and come up to the Gold Coast and play a game and influence it the way he did, just goes to show I think Port Adelaide really have that drive and that depth this year to potentially go all the way like the media is portraying them to. I just want to get your thoughts on Port Adelaide, boys, because I haven't, as I said a couple of weeks back, they're flying under the radar as they always do, but I haven't watched much of them, but they look pretty good. And yeah, what are your thoughts, boys? I don't know. What do we reckon about Port Adelaide? Are they pretenders or are they right up there?
Yeah, well, I reckon they've started to prove themselves, really. Like we've talked about teams like Essendon who are at the top, but they haven't really beaten many people apart from Collingwood. Like Port Adelaide's shown it. Like they beat West Coast, who are still a quality team no matter what. They've come out. They beat GWS yesterday. They put up a solid effort against Brisbane. Brisbane are just in red hot form at the moment, but they've beaten some good teams so far this year to actually deserve the top spot on the ladder, I reckon. And their players, like, they're showing the talent. Like Trav Boak's a sneaky for the Brownlow, everyone's saying, and that's probably true because he's just been consistent. They got all the young boys in Rosie and Butters and Dersman playing their role. Like, I reckon they're actually deserving of being one of the favourites for the flag. Like, I don't know how you boys think. That's just my opinion. They've proven so far that with Dixon going up and marking or contesting most balls in the forward 50, they got their genuine target they've been looking for. I reckon they're very dangerous to the power this year. What do you reckon, Shermo?
Yeah, I agree, mate. I've had a good look at Port over the last 3 weeks. I've watched a lot of their footy, and I think, again, and I've said this before, I think it goes back to the 150th year anniversary, and I think that's what's spurring them on at the moment. They're playing for the jumper. They're playing for their history, and you can see how much passion Ken Hinkley speaks with before and after the game. If you actually look at their post-celebrations after that game, it's like, you know, how good is that to see? Being a coach myself, getting in there with the boys, singing the song, them all chucking the water and the Powerade all over him. I reckon bring it on. I reckon we should be seeing that more. And that just goes to prove at the moment just how tight-knit they are and how much they're embracing being away from home and embracing the concept of there's a flag up for grabs here, and guess what? It's our 150th year anniversary, and we want to win it. We're in there to win it. And at the moment, they're playing like it. They are certainly playing like it. They're playing like a team that has everything to prove. And I think there's a few chips on the shoulder. I think they've been rightfully chipped the last few years, and they probably have come up short a lot of the occasions, and they probably have got to big finals and come up short. But I think this year, we're seeing the real Port Adelaide. I think they've got that stern look on the face. They rolled back the shoulders a little bit and said, "Yep, we're the team to beat." And they don't want to portray that in the media. I think they're just keeping it under wraps at the moment nicely.
And it's working.
I think you're right there, Shermo, with they've been a bit underrated the last few years, and there's something different about them. They've got that swagger this year that they haven't had. And I reckon the big part to it's probably Charlie Dixon, because he's been a bit injured the last few years and they haven't had that key forward target. And now that he's there and they've got someone, a focal point in the forward 50 to go through, they're just finally saying, let's go. It's time. We're ready. We're 100% here. We've got everyone. They're pretty healthy. And when you got the opportunity to drop someone like Tom Rockcliffe to the twos to just get a little bit better, you're flying. Seriously, imagine if teams could be doing that. So, Port really happy with what they're doing.
Yeah, and I'll throw it into the tips with that, boys, for the weekend. I'll start it off. Thursday night, Geelong Collingwood. I'm gonna back the Pies in. Friday, Essendon Bulldogs. I'll back in the Dons to respond. Giants Brizzy. Tough one for me. I reckon the Giants will get the chocolates there at Giants Stadium. Just I don't know. After watching Brisbane last week, they were pretty poor, and I don't know how they'll go against a GWS side that'll want to respond after getting a bit.
Not too impressed, were you? With the
I wasn't, mate. I wasn't, and Sydney Gold Coast. I think at the SCG, Sydney have proved that's a bit of a fortress for them over the years, and Gold Coast haven't played much footy there, so I'll back in the Swans. I think the Tigers will get the win over the Roos. Port Adelaide will beat Carlton convincingly at the Gabba. Hawthorn will unfortunately get the job done over your boys, Melbourne, Shermo, and Eagles will beat the Dockers in the Derby. And then on Monday night footy, we got St Kilda, Adelaide, and geez, I'm a bit nervous about this one, boys. But I'll back in the Saints to respond. But yeah, that's my tips for the week. What do you boys got?
I'll let Sherm go first on this one.
Yeah, rightio, mate. Thursday night, Cats and Collingwood. I think Collingwood got back on the wagon nicely last week, and they're looking really, really good when they play their right brand of footy. I think they're really hard to beat against anyone. So I'm going to back the Pies. Friday night, Essendon Bulldogs. I'm gonna go a little bit of a smoky there. I'm going to tip the Bulldogs to bounce back. Knowing the Bulldogs, they don't realistically play two bad ones, and Bevo will be pretty keen. So I want to see the Bulldogs bounce back there. Saturday, I think it's going to be a cracker. GWS and Brisbane, but I'm going to go with my old mob, Brisbane. I think at the moment they didn't get the chocolates last week, but they're a good side, and I think they'll bounce back. Then we're into the Swans and the Suns. I'm going to go to Suns, actually. I love the vibrance and the energy that they're playing with, and I think that'll be too much for Sydney. At the moment, I think Kennedy hurt himself on the weekend pretty bad, so he's going to be out for a while. I think that's a big loss. So I'm going to go the Suns, have more depth through the midfield. Richmond and North, I'm going to go the Tigers. I just think at the moment they're getting it done, and they always generally find a way. So it's pretty hard to back against them. So I'm going to go with the Tigers. Sunday, Carlton, Port Adelaide. I don't know. This is going to be a pretty tough game, I reckon. So I I might go to the Blues. I'm gonna go against Port. I think at the moment, if they play like they did on the weekend, and they can do that a bit more consistently, I know it's a bit of a risk, but I love what I saw on last night. So I'm going to go with the Blues. So Hawthorn, Melbourne. Can't bet against a D. So hopefully we can back it up and go 2 in a row. Fremantle, West Coast. Yeah, definitely the Eagles for mine. I think over there, different kettle of fish. I think West Coast will get it done. And then Adelaide, St Kilda. Yeah, I think at the moment, I think St Kilda's a better side. So I'm going to go with St Kilda.
Thanks, Sherman.
Some solid tips there. Okay, I'll start off. Obviously, can't go past the Pies on Thursday night against Geelong. I reckon it'll be a ripper game over in Optus. I'll get 30,000 fans there or something, so it'll be good. Friday night, Dons will probably get over the Dogs. I reckon they're in pretty solid form, and Doggies a bit out of form after their thrashing against the Blues last night. Now, GWS Brizzy, it is a good game, and I'm a big fan of Brisbane, as we've seen in the past. Lockie Neal probably get like 30 touches and carry them over the line there, I reckon. But boys, I want to get your opinion on that first. What do you reckon's the game of the round? Would you say that game there, or Geelong Pies maybe? Or is there a sneaky that you reckon, like Carlton, Port Adelaide? What do you reckon? Gilsy, I'll start with you. What's your game of the round?
My game of the round for me, Giants Brisbane for me.
Yep. Shermo, what about
Giants
you?
Brisbane.
Yeah, I think it's out of a couple. I think
St Kilda Adelaide will be good too. At Adelaide.
Yeah, it's a stacked round for sure.
Very good.
Yeah, I think Geelong and Collingwood will be a good game.
Go on, Sherman.
You know, 2 heavyweights, and I think Carlton Port Adelaide will be a good game too, just quietly. I think if Carlton can play like they did at that level that they did last night, they will take it right up to Port Adelaide. They will take it right up to them, but they've got to play at that level. So that's what the risk I'm prepared to take based on what we saw last night. So, yeah, they'd be my 2 games. And then I think, obviously GWS and Brisbane, we know that they're 2 quality sides. So hopefully we get the spectacle of what we all know it's going to live up to. So hopefully those 3 games will be the pick for me.
Yeah, definitely. I reckon Geelong Pies is too hard to go past on Thursday night. GWS Brisbane's quality match right there. I'll continue on with Sydney and Gold Coast. I reckon over the past few years, Sydney's actually gotten worse and worse at the SCG, I reckon. And
they have their record slumped a bit. But
so and like Sherman, I'm a big fan of the Gold Coast.
I don't know.
I'm a big fan of the Gold Coast, personally. Even without my boy Matt Rao at the moment, they're still being close in their games. Like they just lost to Geelong, they've just lost to Melbourne. So I reckon
they just look like they have structure.
They need a win. I reckon they need a win, and I reckon they're due for one. So I reckon they'll get up against the Swans. Now here's my roughie for the week, boys. I'm going to say that North are going to beat Richmond on the Saturday night.
Okay.
Up at Metricon, the Tigers' injuries, they got through them this week. I reckon they're going to hurt them. That was against the Swans in a pretty shit match, everyone said. So I reckon North, this is going to be one of the weeks they actually rock up and they're going to get the better of the Tigers.
Yep. Good call.
Sunday we'll go on to, I reckon Port Adelaide will beat Carlton. Hawthorn, Alistair Clarkson will get back on the wins list. He's been flogged the last few weeks for the poor performances. So I reckon he'll get over the D's. Sorry, Sherm. Obviously, the West Coast Eagles will probably get over the Freo Dockers, and the Saints are too good for the Crows in my book.
Yep, so I like it, boys. It's been a pleasure chatting with you lads this morning, talking a bit of footy and a couple of the big talking points. It'll be a bit of a familiar thing for us now, and for the show guys that will do a show every Monday, wrapping up the round and the big footy news. We won't delve too much into it. We'll keep it pretty short and sweet, but I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did enjoy it, make sure you let us know. And if there's anything you want to see us change in the format of the show and any episodes in the future, please let us know. We're open to any feedback.
Give us a bit of feedback. We're always open for
it. Everyone have a good week and make sure you stay safe during this challenging time again. And can't wait to speak to you lads next week and look forward to releasing another episode Wednesday.
Take care, guys.
See you, boys. Solid.